Tonight I'll be reading from Matthew 26, and the reason why I chose this verse is because with the recent shooting in Texas, I feel like I should read about the situation, and it's in Matthew 26 about put your sword back into its place. And these are other Bible verses unrelated to this topic. So I'll read Matthew 26 on this May 25th, 2022, close to 25th or 26th. The conspiracy grows. Oh wow, interesting chapter title. Now it happened that when Yeshua had finished all these words, he said to his disciples, "You know that Passover comes in 2 days, and the Son of Man will be handed over to be executed." Then the ruling Kohanim and elders of the people were gathered together in the court of the Kohen Gadol named Caiaphas. They plotted together in order that they might seize Yeshua by stealth and kill him, but not during the festival. They were saying, so there won't be a riot among the people. Then verse 6, chapter theme is a woman anoints Yeshua for burial. Now while Yeshua was in Bethany at the house of Simon ha-Mitzora, a woman came up to him with an alabaster jar of very expensive oil, and she poured it on his head as he was reclining at the table. But when the disciples saw this, they were indignant, saying, "Why this waste? It could have been sold for a lot and the money given to the poor." But Yeshua, knowing this, said to them, "Why do you cause trouble for this woman? She's done me a mitzvah. You always have the poor with you, but you won't always have me. For when she poured this oil on my body, she did it to prepare me for burial. Amen. I tell you, wherever this good news is proclaimed in all the world, what she has done will also be told in memory of her." The next chapter theme section is betrayed and sold for silver. When one of the 12, the one called Judah of Kriyat, went to the ruling Kohanim and said, "What are you willing to give me if I hand him over to you?" And they weighed out 30 shekels of silver for him. From then on, Judah began looking for a chance to hand him over. Now on the first day of Matzah, disciples came to Yeshua saying, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" He said, "Go into the city to a certain man and tell him, 'The teacher says, my time is near. At your house I am to keep the Passover with my disciples.'" The disciples did as Yeshua had ordered them, and they prepared the Passover. Now when it was evening, Yeshua was reclining at the table with the 12. As they were eating, he said, "Amen, I tell you, one of you will betray me." And being very sorrowful, they began each one to say to him, "I am not the one. Am I the master?" And he replied, "The one who dipped his hand in the bowl with me, he is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man indeed goes just as it is written about him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better for that man if he had not been born." And Judah, the one betraying him, replied, "I am the one. Am I, Rabbi?" Yeshua said to him, "You said it yourself." Now while they were eating, Yeshua took matzah, and after he ordered the bracha, he broke and gave to the disciples and said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And he took a cup, and after giving thanks, he gave to them, saying, "Drink from it, all you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for the many for the removal of sins. But I say to you, I will never drink of this fruit of the vine from now on, until that day when I drink it anew with you in my Father's kingdom." After singing the Hallel, they went out to the Mount of Olives, and Yeshua said to them, "This night you will all fall away because of me. For it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I am raised up, I will go before you to the Galilee." But Peter said to him, "Though all fall away because of you, I'll never fall away." Yeshua said to him, "Truly, I tell you, this very night, before a rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Then if I must die with you," Peter says to him, "I'll never deny you." And so said all the disciples. Then the next verse section, chapter theme is "Your will be done." Verse 36, and Yeshua comes with them to a place called Gethsemane, and he tells the disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took along Peter and Zebedee's 2 sons, and he began to be sorrowful and troubled. Then he tells them, "My soul is deeply grieved, even to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me." Going a little farther, he fell face down and prayed, saying, "My Father, it is possible. Let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." Then he comes to the disciples and finds them sleeping. He tells Peter, "So couldn't you keep watch with me for 1 hour? Keep watching and praying so that you won't enter into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak." Again, for a second time, he went away and prayed, saying, "My Father, if this cannot pass away unless I drink it, let your will be done." And again he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were heavy. So he left them again and prayed a 3rd time, saying the same words once more. Then he comes to the disciples and says to them, "Still sleeping, taking you rest? Look, the hour is at the hand, and the Son of Man is being delivered into the hands of sinners. Get up, let's go. Look, my betrayer is near." Then the next chapter section theme is taken into custody, and this is where the Bible verse is about violence. While Yeshua was still speaking, here came Judah, one of the 12, and with him a big crowd with swords and clubs, from the ruling Kohanim and elders of the people. Now his betrayer had given him a sign, saying, "The one I kiss, he's the one. Seize him." And immediately Judah drew near to Yeshua and said, "Shalom, Rabbi," and kissed him. "Friend," Yeshua said to him, "do not do what you've come to do." Then they came up and threw his hands on Yeshua and seized him. And suddenly one of those with Yeshua stretched out his hand and drew his sword, and he struck the Kohen Gadol's servant and cut off his ear. Then Yeshua said to him, "Put your sword back in its place, for all who have taken up the sword shall perish by the sword. Or do you suppose that I cannot call on my Father, and at once he will place at my side 12 legions of angels? How then would the scriptures be fulfilled, that it must be so?" And at that hour Yeshua said to the crowds, "Have you come out with swords and clubs to capture me, as you have a revolutionary? Every day I sat teaching in the 12, and you didn't seize me. But all this has happened so that the writings of the prophets would be fulfilled." Then all the disciples fled, abandoning him. Now those who had seized Yeshua led him away to Caiaphas, the Kohen Gadol, where the Torah scholars and elders had gathered. Peter was following him from a distance as far as the courtyard of the Kohen Gadol, and after going inside, he was sitting with the guards to see the outcome. The next chapter section theme is Yeshua's trial begins. Now the ruling Kohanim and all the Sanhedrin kept trying to get false testimony against Yeshua so they could not put him to death, but they found none. Though many false witnesses came forward, at last 2 came forward and said, "This fellow said, I'm able to destroy the temple of God and rebuild it in 3 days." The Kohen Gadol stood up and said to Yeshua, "Have you no answer? What's this they're testifying against you?" But Yeshua kept silent. Then Kohen Gadol said to him, "I charge you under oath by the living God, tell us if you are Mesha ben Elohim." "As you have said," replied Yeshua. "Besides that, I tell you, soon after you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of power and coming on the clouds of heaven." Then the Kohen Gadol tore his clothes and said, "Blasphemy! Why do we need any more witnesses? Look, you've heard the blasphemy. What's your verdict?" "Guilty," they answered. He deserves death. Then they spat in his face and pounded him with their fists. Others slapped him and demanded, "Prophesy to us, you Messiah. Which one hit you?" Then the next chapter, section theme, and last one, Peter denies Yeshua. Verse 69, meanwhile, Peter was sitting in the courtyard. A servant girl came up over to him and said, "You also were with Yeshua at the Galilee." But he denied it before everyone, saying, "I don't know what you're talking about." When he went into the porch, another servant girl saw him and said to those who were there, "This man was with Yeshua la Nazareti." Again he denied it with an oath, "I don't know that man." A little while later, some of the bystanders approached Peter, said to him, "Surely you're one of them too. Your accent gives you away." Then he began to curse and to swear an oath, "I do not know the man." Right then a rooster crowed. Then Peter reminded himself of the word Yeshua had said, "Before the rooster crows, cock-a-cock-a-doo, you will deny me 3 times." Then he went away and wept bitterly. And that's verse 75, Matthew 26. And the chapter theme that I was focusing, violence. Bible verses on violence. Pray for peace.